Think of PlayStation 2 era Madden franchise mode, but turn the level of depth up to 100, turn off the ability to control the players, and release it as a standalone title. That's what NFL Head Coach was. As a kid, I ignored this game. All I wanted to do was control my players and create highlight plays, juking and spinning my way to the end zone. As I've gotten older, however, I've grown to appreciate this game for just how innovative, in-depth, and even risky it was for its time. To avoid any confusion, this video is exclusively about the 2006 release of NFL Head Coach, with Bill Cowher on the cover, released on the PlayStation 2, original Xbox, and PC. Not the game titled Head Coach 09, with Tony Dungy on the cover. If you want me to make a video on that game as well, let me know down in the comments. To get a really good idea of just how crazy this game was, let's go back in time to the date of its release. 2 years had passed since the NFL and EA signed an exclusive rights agreement. Madden 07 was set to drop in a month, and EA was currently developing Madden games for 2 different generations of consoles. NFL Head Coach was an entire game dedicated to the hardcore crowd of franchise mode players, aiming to simulate the tasks given to a real NFL head coach. And this was during a time when Madden's franchise mode was actually really good on its own. A game like NFL Head Coach would make sense today, given how lackluster and empty the franchise mode is in Madden 20, for example, but this was released during the peak of Madden's franchise mode, yet somehow offered an even richer and deeper experience. If you enjoy drafting players, signing free agents, rebuilding teams, and simulating through games year after year until you create a dynasty, this game was like that on steroids. It starts you off as an assistant coach on the Super Bowl XL winning Pittsburgh Steelers team under Bill Cowher's coaching tree. You get to create your own coach, picking through many different options for clothing, faces, body shapes, and then it places you in the 2006 offseason ready to join a new team as a head coach. You can choose any team to interview with, and they always offer you a contract, meaning you can coach any team you want. Now, if you've never played this game, you may be wondering, why wouldn't I just play Madden's franchise mode? Especially when in this game, I can't even control the players, I'm just watching 2 teams play each other. Let me explain. In this game, you have an office where you work, build a coaching tree, have meetings with your assistant coaches, interview candidates for your staff, examine, research, and scout draft prospects, negotiate contracts with free agents, manage your depth chart and roster, run entire practices where you select drills and have complete control over the session. And when playing games, while you can't control the players, you get to call your own plays, run your own scheme, and even talk to players on the sideline. There are 2 reasons why I think it's a good thing that you cannot control your players. First, a low-rated player can't be cheesed by user input. You can't put in a 60 overall quarterback and run cheese plays to boost his overall like you could in Madden. If he's a 60, he's going to make poor decisions, making ratings actually matter. Secondly, it adds true skill to play calling. If your team wins games and is successful, that's because you run a great team. Your offense and defense are able to play well based on your play calls without any user involvement. It's like being a real head coach. And while the level of depth and inability to use stick skills or whatever might turn some people off, this game was not meant for them. This game was meant for the hardcore football fans who study the X's and O's and actually have interest in running a team. This game is considered a management game, like the popular soccer game Football Manager. When you look at it from that perspective, the fact that the game visually renders plays using Madden's engine goes from underwhelming to impressive. What other management game has access to this type of visuals for simulating play calls? The sheer amount of depth and options is what makes this game crazy. Between games, when you run a practice, you can choose between one-on-one practices, non-contact drills, or the usual 11-on-11 full contact runs. Each practice session has 10 reps and the option of using your first, second, or third string players. Practices lead to increases in attributes, however, over-practicing your players could lead to injuries. Practice is also a good way to tell if a player fits in your system. Some players simply won't perform well in your specific scheme, just like in real life. You can also give talks to your players during practice, or even talk to a player on the sidelines mid-game. For example, if your quarterback is chucking up prayers under pressure to avoid getting sacked, you can talk to him and ask him to relax and protect the ball, even if it means taking a sack. This level of depth and interaction with your roster is shocking, especially if this game is new to you, which it likely is considering how poorly it's sold. There is an RPG element to it as well. Yelling at your quarterback after an interception might help him, but it also might hurt him, depending on the individual player. It's all about choices, and every decision you make will have a result, good or bad. During gameplay, you can call audibles, hot routes, formation shifts, set players in motion, but when the ball is snapped, you are at the mercy of your players. The game's AI can be unpredictable, and that's honestly where the fun is. You never know what's going to happen on any given play, and I find that realistic. You can also customize the camera angle to your liking, including a bird's eye all-22 film view. The off-season and your weekdays between games are the craziest parts of this game. In Madden, for example, you sim game day to game day. In Head Coach, you go day by day, with a seemingly endless amount of tasks to complete. While some may find these tedious, you can always simulate tasks you don't want to do. And the important thing here is that no one could complain that this game didn't have enough depth. Each season, you try to achieve greater heights than the previous one, and you climb your way up to the Hall of Legends, trying to surpass Don Shula as the greatest NFL coach of all time according to this game. Presentation-wise, the game shines. Your coach's office and the menu layout is really well done. The draft has an ESPN presentation to it. It gives a very strong NFL 2K5 vibe, with EA actually utilizing its ESPN license very well. I have no idea why they haven't chosen to do this in recent Madden games, because they have exclusive rights to the ESPN license to this very day. The game even has the late great Steve Sabol filming your most important moments for NFL films. On the field, you hear what coaches would hear from the sidelines: loud hits, crowd noise, and no repetitive commentary. The atmosphere feels about as well done as it possibly could have been for a 2006 game. The game was criticized for being too overwhelming for most Madden players, but that is all by design. A franchise mode this deep wouldn't work in Madden because the casual players would find it too complex. By no means do I think Madden's current franchise mode is good enough, because it's not, it's awful. But in the golden era, during the PS2 days, Madden's franchise mode was perfect. It had just enough depth, while also being relatively easy to get into. NFL Head Coach was a separate game to Madden 07 for a reason. It's for the players who want to micromanage every last detail of their team. And while that group may be pretty niche, as you get older and gain a greater understanding for the game of football, you'll start to appreciate games like this. That's why over time, as Madden has gotten worse, and besides one sequel a few years later, the Head Coach series was abandoned, people have come to love this game in retrospect. If EA is going to have the exclusive rights to the NFL, we want as many NFL games as possible so that all the different NFL fans are satisfied. It seems like EA was on board with that thought back in the day, but not anymore. After all, it is a business, and games like this don't bring in the big sales numbers. I find it odd that EA actually made this game. It appeals to such a small crowd, and almost seems like a fever dream. I have no idea how they expected the game to sell well, but maybe back then EA wasn't all about the money. But if that was the case, then why did they sign the exclusive rights agreement with the NFL 2 years previously? It just doesn't add up. With that said, obviously, I'm super happy this game exists. It's exactly what hardcore franchise mode players have been begging for years. And if video games don't appeal to you in the first place, you'd still find enjoyment in this game because it's basically a realistic NFL coach simulator. The 09 version of the game took things a step further, allowing you to create your own plays. And then the series ended forever. Would I love to see a new NFL head coach game? Yes, very much so, especially with how bare bones Madden's current franchise mode is. But you can still play this game today, and in my opinion, while it takes some getting used to, it holds up very well. Every time I play it, I come away impressed by the sheer volume of possibilities this game offers. If you're a big fan of Madden's franchise mode and enjoy running and managing a team, this is a game you have to check out. Thanks for watching.